Here, we celebrate Africa not as a headline, but as a home full of ideas, courage, flavor, and future. This is where we talk about everything Africa. The politics that shape our nations, the innovations that shift our economies, the culture that colors our lives, the challenges we face with honesty, and the victories we are building one story at a time. On this show, no topic is swept aside. We are unfiltered and we are intentional. We bring you experts from across the continent and the world. Voices that know, voices that live the African experience, voices that are shaping the next chapter of our story. Let your spirit rise. We don't just tell Africa's story, we own it. Join Joy Asonye on Razep Africa, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Global Television.
A very good morning to you as you join us on Razep Africa this beautiful, beautiful morning. Again, we're here to talk about Africa, updates around Africa, discuss the innovations and all the beautiful things happening out of Africa. So I am very excited, and of course I have with me in the studio Simbiat Amzat. Simbiat, how have you been?
I'm good. It's been such a beautiful day.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when we have been doing so much discussing what's been going on across Africa, and above everything, there are several innovations to be very grateful for. A lot of times we, especially in the media, we do this to ourselves a lot, where it seems like there's this saturated stories around Africa that are not necessarily true. So that is why we are here in Razep Africa. So how are you feeling?
I feel so good that we are bringing Africa to the limelight in a positive way by telling stories of Africa and Africa in a way that the world will get to see us as innovative and
absolutely, absolutely. We have energies, we have innovations, we have so much going on. But we would start with the news updates this morning, the news update telling you stories across Africa. And we will begin in Ghana, where new malaria vaccines are helping people. The country has made significant progress in reducing child deaths from this disease called malaria. And as you already know, malaria is that disease that has been affecting especially some of us in the tropics. Health officials, however, have said that the rollout of 2 new vaccines developed by the GSK and by Oxford University with the Serum Institute of India is closing a critical gap in Ghana's long fight against malaria, which remains one of the leading killers of young children across Africa. That's something to really celebrate. There's been that, I don't know if you heard about the conspiracy theory that pharmaceutical companies would not do anything about malaria because they get so much out of it. I remember when COVID came out, the conversation was around, oh, COVID is out because it is globally affecting everyone. It is affecting everyone globally rather. There was a cure. Before you could say, you could pick a pin, there was vaccines for it, and they had done a rapid clinical trial. But when it comes to malaria, we've been battling with clinical trials that would end us in having vaccines. But I'm happy that we are rolling out this in Kenya. Malaria has also caused havoc in Ghana, rather. Malaria has also caused havoc in almost all parts of the tropics, really.
So what happens if donor fatigue reverse over the period of years? Because it seems like we keep on relying on donors, we keep on relying on funding, we keep on relying on... Is it that we don't have traditionally made vaccines that can can actually treat this malaria forever in a way that it doesn't even reoccur, instead of us having to rely on funding or having to rely on.
And that's the problem we have. I think it's about intentionality. The minute we are intentional about what we want to do, what we want to achieve, Africa can fund its malaria R&D, research and development around malaria. Africa can absolutely.
Okay, but vaccines is not even enough. Like, vaccines alone is not even enough. They should be treated nets or water that would even make it more realistic, because we cannot keep on relying on vaccines and then we have to go back to mosquitoes.
Look at polio, but we can't rely on vaccines. Look at polio, for instance. Look at measles, for instance. Look at all the things vaccines have done. Tuberculosis. You see that the beauty about vaccine is not just that you are no longer exposed to this, because where you're going now is, okay, we need to have sensitize the people. Everything can work simultaneously to ensure that the places are clean. You use treated mosquito nets, you do intermittent checks and all that. That's a different ball game altogether. But if you look at what vaccines can do, it just gets you immune, such that you are no longer susceptible to it, even
for a short period of time.
Irrespective.
Because you have to take an upgrade and you
absolutely. But there will come a time when, if we are even starting on this vaccine conversation, it's easier to now get to a point where the vaccines are we're no longer discussing the vaccines having an upgrade like we've had in several other vaccines, like the COVID-19. There was COVID-19 extra. It wasn't extra. They call it an update, booster, and all of that. We will get to a point where one single dose for a child that's born in Africa would immune the child throughout their lifetime. Look at yellow fever, for instance. These are diseases that before vaccines came, a lot of people had died from. So it's really exciting to know that once again we're having opportunities like this to solve one of Africa's biggest problem. Look at the child mortality rate due to malaria, and we have not fixed primary healthcare sector or facilities across the globe. When I was having a conversation with a friend in Sierra Leone, and I was telling her the issues we have in our primary healthcare sectors, she said, "Say no more. If I take a picture, it would seem as if it's another local government."
It looks like
Nigeria.
It's even worse in Africa. The primary health care is a no-no, because you look at things that are happening in other countries, and when you compare it to Africa, is such a turn-off.
Absolutely. You're right, it's very concerning. Anyway, health authorities have warned that recent aid cutbacks by the Trump administration and other wealthy governments could limit how many children benefit. Vaccines Alliance Gavi says funding shortfalls mean it would only be able to spend about $800 million on malaria vaccines over the next 5 years, far below what is needed at the moment. That's also raising concerns that progress could slow across the continent. When you hear about $800 million, only $800 million spent on this, and you read some of the many monies that anti-graft agencies across Africa are taking from, $800 million is not a lot of money to invest in something as important as malaria that has been, affecting children, pregnant women, and everyone really across Africa. I think if we are very intentional, governments across Africa put their heads together to ensure that we curb or ramp up the production of this vaccine. If it does work, I don't think it's a lot of money. I think we could do better if we could unitedly come together.
Yeah.
Now, speaking about malaria, Simbia, there was this talk, I think it was Senator Ned Nwoko. I know when I mention Ned Nwoko, people are thinking of all sorts. But several years ago, I did a report on him and his Ned Nwoko Foundation. He had this intention to have like a nationwide fumigation. And I remember it was so interesting. I asked questions around it. I was interested to know what it entailed.
Did
he
it
said he had
eventually
done
work?
no. He did. He needed to collaborate with government. He needed funding for it because these are, I think, helicopters will have to take it region by region simultaneously so that eggs. Because and I asked if it was good enough for if it had adverse effects on
Children.
on humans or animals or the environment, and he said it does not have any adverse effect. It targets mosquito and mosquito larvae.
So that means
And it
so,
was
it would have been
exactly
so interesting to see how it would have panned out, but like you said, they had to collaborate with government, and was it that the government didn't get?
I'm sure because he was so interested. He had a lot of scientists across the world do this. I think it was even from Harvard, where scientists across the world did this. They came together to have this vaccine, not vaccine now, this fumigating chemical or whatever, but it was quite organic. It was, according to him at the time, one that will solve the problem of malaria. Yearly, you do it twice. Yearly, the government just has to do it twice. It will, if we put, like the conversation I had with him at the time was, and he said, and it made sense. If you know how much Nigeria pays in pharmaceuticals across just solving the problem of malaria alone, if all of us can contribute to this, I mean, I don't mind if I tell you how much it costs me and my household, and I say, okay, you know what, it cost me 100,000, and I'm donating. If Nigerians were serious about this,
Per household, if there's like maybe 100,000, let's say 100,000 is even higher.
I will give 100,000 if I don't have to suffer malaria, or anyone in my household suffer malaria.
Like a subsidized rate that, okay, each household should maybe donate maybe 10,000 or 20,000 at least. It will go a long way in giving them enough funding.
I agree with you. And these are initiatives that we must commend. These are initiatives that must continue. Let's see what we can constantly do. I really applaud Ghana for the work you're doing when it comes to malaria. I applaud the GSK pharmaceutical company. They've done so much across Africa, and Oxford University, of course. They've done so much across Africa in terms of curbing a lot of diseases and all that, and also they have that's by the way though, but I have to mention that they have a vibrant CSR, and a lot of people have benefited. Young Africans have benefited. Moving away from the malaria story, in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, the leader of the rebel coalition has denounced the recent mineral agreement between Kinshasa and Washington, calling it unconstitutional and lacking transparency. Corneille Nangaa, who leads the Alliance Fleuve Congo, said the deal granting the United States greater access to critical minerals in exchange for investment and security cooperation was negotiated without proper legal procedures. He also questioned the feasibility of the agreement, noting that many key mineral areas are now under the control of M23 rebel group, which seized Goma a year ago. Nangaa warned that mining concessions could be disputed, accused the Congolese government of corruption, casting further doubt over prospects for U.S. investment in the conflict-hit region. That right there is quite concerning. Here on Razep Media, we have constantly talked about these legal documents and these concessions that are often given, and how much it benefits the people of that country. Here we have the leader of the rebel group denouncing that and saying, I'm bringing back these fears. Call him what you may, he's raising concerns that a lot of us have when we hear about agreements with Washington, agreements with China, agreements with all companies across the world. It is a very concerning, very concerning turnout of event. And I
so
hope
if he has to denounce, what does this now say about governance and transparency because you cannot just come and say something that people have believed, and then you say you come to denounce it. What do you want people to now think about your country?
Absolutely. Well, it doesn't matter what people think about his country, he's raising concerns. And I think you too should be concerned if there's access to critical minerals in exchange for investments. I mean, I don't know if roles were reversed, the US will want to do deals like that. And like it was said, greater access to mineral. We keep talking about looking inward and seeing how we can absolutely generate revenue with the resources that we have. And if this agreement, once again, is not one that favors the Congolese people, then it should be really looked at. Call him what you may. It is quite concerning when we record certain things like that. And when back home in Nigeria, it's also very concerning. I'm just happy that we're beginning to have better regulations around our natural resources. Let's have better regulation. Let the oil and gas sector teach us a lesson.
Okay, so when you're looking at the legal and security risks involved, are these countries, are they also looking at the security risks involved in
ensuring that, the agreement and security risk? And it's all encompassing. When you open your doors to foreigners, often that's you're unsure. And we've had rebels, especially in Somalia, in Congo rather. We've had a lot of conflicts around there, and the question is it that Africa cannot control its mineral and its resources? Is it that we cannot control its resources? We must fight. We cannot come together and have a structured framework that determines how the people enjoy, because the problem now is often personal interest coming in, how much it benefits the people, and issues that shouldn't be. If there was just a framework that everyone agrees to, a constitution, a framework, and a strategy that will not ensure conflict. But we have rebels here, and so much is going on in Congo. Sometimes you look at this chaos and you ask yourself, is it better for foreigners to come take over, make we rest? You know, because we also have instances where it is speculated, of course, that these conflicts are fueled by four external bodies, which in many instances you can pin and say yes, it is obvious there. But are we that docile that we cannot look through it all and say enough is enough? Okay, I have made Simbiat a bit speechless right there. So let's turn now to the Horn of Africa. Chaos has erupted in Somalia's parliament after opposition lawmakers clashed with the speaker over proposed constitutional amendment. Scuffles and shouting forced the suspension of the joint session as critics accused parliamentary leaders of attempting to push through changes that could extend lawmakers' term. Now, Somalia has operated under a provincial constitution since 2012, with repeated efforts to finalize it, exposing deep political divisions. Opposition figures warn that the latest move risks triggering another constitutional crisis similar to the unrest in 2021 that led to the armed confrontations in Mogadishu and threatened broader stability. Well, it's quite unfortunate that we're seeing this thing. I mean, we just finished a story here where I said, let's have a structured strategy and framework that is beneficial to all. And here, see what's happening in Somalia.
Usually, it's always as a result of these lawmakers trying to show their own powers, not because of any constitutional reforms or anything. Because when things like this happen, especially in the parliament, places like the parliament, you just look at it that they are just trying to show off maybe their powers, or it's not as if they are doing it for the purpose or the benefit of what the discussion is actually about.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, it's quite unfortunate that the U.S. president has been, you know what young people say, throwing jabs at Somalia, saying the country is such a mess, the country is all of that, and they are proving him right. You know, I'm a proud person, so when you say I cannot do this, I am not worthy, you know, I want to prove you wrong. But here we are seeing this embarrassment of parliamentarians trying to, you know, but I mean, constitutional review anywhere in the world shouldn't be a big deal. It shouldn't be so much that we can't resolve it amicably. But we see this scuffle. Sometimes it gets physical, like in this case, and the joint session had to be closed. But as critics have also said, accusing the parliamentarian leaders of attempting to push through changes that could extend the lawmakers' terms, is that particularly a bad thing? Because I'm always looking at what benefits the people, not necessarily what's the framework UK has, what's the framework America has. I had a conversation with a black American actually who was talking about how Africa has not necessarily embraced democracy, and I said yes. So who sets the standard? I'm a sociologist by profession, and I say, what if this is a democracy that works for us? Why are you pushing down the democracy that works for you? We can tweak and turn our democracy. We could call it whatever we want to call it, but if it works for us. We've seen several instances where when you shake it up like that, when you shake up the polity and shake up the leadership structure of a country or state in Africa, it changes the dynamics of people. So what if this is what works for us? Can't we figure out an indigenous system of government that works for us? If democracy is not working, what works for us? And then we focus on it. So I understand where critics are coming and saying that it's pushing to have an extended tenure term for each legislator. But is it something? Is it really that bad? What do the people of Somalia think?
Okay, do you think that the international partners would have to intervene, or is something that could be resolved?
I don't like, as an African, as a proud African, I don't like to hear that international partners would have to intervene in internal issues like us. It's a very important conversation. But if we
cannot coordinate ourselves on the global scene, I think that we are already putting ourselves in that situation.
Has the global scene coordinated themselves well for the African scene? I don't care about the global scene. I'm more for the African scene. What are lessons over, if you follow the news across other parts of the world, what are lessons Africans are facing? It goes to show that at the end of the day, we are all human beings. We all make mistakes. We all are selfish in our thoughts. But that's not to say Africa does not have its act together. We can absolutely do better. But the standard here is not global. The standard is what we create for ourselves, I think. Is that something you argue with?
I totally agree with what you've said.
Absolutely.
We should not always rely on international partners to resolve things that we could resolve within ourselves. I agree with that.
And I often am concerned, totally concerned about the meddling that often happens when they say, okay, there's this issues, internal issues, we are coming to ensure peace. That has never worked for Africa. Why are we not looking inwards to solve the problems that we have? Look at other parts of the country. We have a massive protest going on as we speak in Minnesota, where people are protesting against ICE that has, according in their words, been harassing people. They've recorded the death of 2 Americans, but that story for another day. What is important to take away from this is that right there is NSAS. That right there, America is having their bout of NSAS, and I cannot begin. If you pull out the stories or the advices and suggestions and everything that came out when Nigeria faced their own NSAS of some sort. And by the way, I think it's not as bad as ours. Is not as bad as NSAS is not as bad as the NSAS happening in Minnesota right now. NICE, you know. But when you look at where that superiority complex in looking down and saying, oh, this is what you do, human rights abuses and all of that, now you look back, Nigerians are not looking. Africans are not looking. There's so much to learn from this. America is having its own bout of NSAS. And why are we still thinking that ours is the worst that has happened? There's so much beauty in our continent, and if we have internal conflict, let us learn to solve it internally with love.
Just like Razep
Africa, with love. Let's learn to solve issues internally and see how we would ensure that we don't have that meddling that happens. It has never been to our interest. It will not start now. So let's solve our issues internally. That's just what I'll say. But leaving that story, we move on now to the eastern part of Africa, that is Uganda, that has recently announced the plans to sharply cut external budget support in the next financial year as it seeks to rely more on domestic revenue. The Finance Ministry said that loans and grants from abroad will fall by more than 84%, dropping to about 330.9 billion shillings from over 2 trillion shillings a year earlier. Officials have said that the move reflects a push to strengthen domestic revenue mobilization, with projected local revenues expected to rise by 9%. Uganda has also made plans to reduce domestic debt issuance to help manage its growing public debt, as the country prepares for the expected start of crude oil production. That is one good story coming out of Uganda right there.
It's a bold move towards self-reliance, because if this domestic revenue thing works, it would definitely improve the economy of Uganda.
And look inwards. Africa, look inwards. Africa, look inwards. We have so much to give. It doesn't have to be business as usual, where you are at the mercy of grants and loans.
But do you think the local revenues can realistically replace this foreign funding?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just like saying you marry a wife and another person would care for your wife and then your children forever. At some point, you have to look inwards to say, if there's going to be a start of crude oil production in Uganda, which is what's giving them the confidence to say, you know what, we no longer want this foreign reliance. We are now looking inwards, which is fantastic news from Uganda. It gives them a good leverage, a good place to negotiate amongst world power. Nobody is respected who is collecting. Nobody.
But then if they no longer rely on foreign funding, don't you think that taxes will rise, and then the people will have to at least bear the brunt?
What would make taxes rise?
For a little while.
What would make, if you study Uganda, they are farmers, and they also have a bit of cocoa. They have a lot of plantain. They are farmers. They are known for boost in agriculture, and now they have natural resources that can maintain them. Think for a moment, if Nigeria stops collecting loans, you think we would all wither and die? We would not. We still have a vibrant economy that we can rely on.
And that's challenge us
to explore several opportunities. Someone had given me a book. It's called A Book of Resources. A book of I can't remember what it's tagged, but it mentioned. Do you know that there is no local government in Nigeria that does not have resources to be proud of? There is no local government in Nigeria that does not have. Every local government has in it several resources. And I'm saying there are countries around the world that do not enjoy all of this, and they are surviving. Nigerians are beginning to go to Singapore. If you look at Singapore, what do they have that's boosting their economy? There are several countries that are relying on what we would casually hear say, oh, okay, tourism. Do you know that if we put together the billions that Nigerians use to tour other parts of the world and go to Agungu in Kebbi State and go to the ranch, the beautiful natural ranch in Obudu Cattle Ranch. If you go to Olumoro, if we even advertise, I was talking on the show the other day about South Africa advertising for people to come tour South Africa, come not just invest now. It wasn't about investment, it was about discussing about their hospitality and the tour sites that you could come enjoy. It was holiday time, come enjoy South Africa. That was jingles on Nigeria's show. And I've never gone to any part of the world where I even see a flyer to say, at airports to say, come to Nigeria. And as beautiful as Nigeria is.
People take it more serious to come and...
Have you wondered why Dirty December worked? And the many, today we are talking about over 60-something billion that was generated by Lagos State government. Do you know why it worked?
I think it's largely from the entertainment sector.
Exactly, young people. It's self. This is not because there was okay. It was only because the young people now brought about that touch, that bright light across what the possibilities that are inherent. I was talking to people all over the world and they're like, I bet you're having Dirty December. And I'm like, I'm sure you think Lagos is everywhere. Lagos is not Nigeria, sir. Lagos is just but one state. But however, it was a conversation I enjoyed having to say, oh, it's happening here. It's happening here. And we enjoyed that.
But if we can channel the energy, we can channel all the resources that we used for the Dirty December into other productive things that would even last way after the December, and then we can now rely on them to boost our economy.
Exactly. It just goes to show that we don't need oil. We don't need oil all the time to solve our problems, and we don't need to be at the mercy of international grants and loans to solve our problems. If we only think just a bit, we could think beyond the box and see how we can generate revenue that will sustain us, like
and then
Uganda
is doing. Look inward to see how we can develop on the things that are already established in the country.
Absolutely. Well, it's time to go for a very quick short break. When we return, we continue discussing news and stories coming out of Africa. I'm leaving you with this beautiful note of Uganda deciding to stand by itself. This is Rise Up Africa. We'll be back after this.
Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Here, we celebrate Africa not as a headline, but as a home full of ideas, courage, flavor, and future. This is where we talk about everything Africa. The politics that shape our nations, the innovations that shift our economies, the culture that colors our lives, the challenges we face with honesty, and the victories we are building one story at a time. On this show, no topic is swept aside. We are unfiltered and we are intentional. We bring you experts from across the continent and the world. Voices that know, voices that live the African experience, voices that are shaping the next chapter of our story. Let your spirit rise. We don't just tell Africa's story, we own it. Join Joy Asonye on Razep Africa, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Global Television.
Welcome back from that break. It's still Razep Africa, and I'm here with Simbia discussing Africa, the stories coming out of Africa. Now we move to North Africa, that is Morocco, that is saying that it will begin operating its second Mediterranean deep water port. They call it the Nado West Med in the fourth quarter of this year. The $5.6 billion project is designed to replicate the success of Tanga Med, Africa's largest port, and boost Morocco's position as the major global logistics and trade hub. The new port would initially handle up to will initially handle up to 5 million containers a year, with plans to expand capacity to 12 million. Authorities say that the project will strengthen Morocco's industrial, export and infrastructure ambitions while attracting greater foreign investment and enhancing regional connectivity. That's quite exciting right there when we talk about our ports. It's been a big issue for Nigerians and Africans trying to trade amongst ourselves. It's been such a big issue. Somebody was like, it is cheaper, absolutely cheaper. I think it was on this show, it was on South Africa the other day, when a business development expert was talking about how cheap it was to invest in Africa, to ship rather from China, from any part of the world, than it is to ship something from Mali right beside us, or from South Africa, because of how expensive it is, 3 times more expensive. So if we are serious in Africa to develop our ports to that place where you are completely sure that your containers will arrive safely, and it's Africa, it's really close to us geographically and and otherwise. So if you're sure that your containers will land safely and you start processing getting it to your country, it
would even attract manufacturers and also improve exports.
I like that Morocco is having that ambition of ensuring, of working on this port. We need good stories like this. We need to be proud of the innovations and the feats that our African brothers are having. So,
but with local communities, will they also benefit? Will they see the benefits?
Absolutely. I mean, if for young people like you who want to go into business and you want to export something and it is seamless, if you were spending so much in having to go to a port not away from you, now you spend less. The time is cut. The resources is cut. Your productivity is more, and then you profit more as well. And I'm sure this is going to boost the economy of Morocco, because I mean, when business is done, trade is done seamlessly, you are absolutely going to benefit from that. So it's an exciting news. I'm hoping that other parts of the country take a cue. We were discussing why
other parts of
Africa, West Africa should take a cue. Look at Africa, look at Nigeria, for instance. We're discussing why cars are so expensive in Nigeria. And a dealer once told me that, oh my goodness, you could go out there, get a vehicle for $8,000 and spend $3,000 in getting it to your country. $3,000. You have not included your profit.
So even other expenses.
Exactly. So if you get the vehicle at $8,000, and you ship it for another $3,000, $4,000 is what it takes you to bring that country to the country, to take the vehicle rather to the country. Think of what he would put as his profit. And we keep talking local content, but are we ready to do local content? Look at our vehicles, we're still just assembling. We're not seriously producing. And I mean, that industry is becoming very vibrant. So kudos to the manufacturing industry across Nigeria. We're having African EVs. We're having Nigerians produce electric vehicles. We may not be the next Elon Musk and Tesla, but we are getting there. There's so much to celebrate, and I hope that we would boost this production to a point where we have what we have to the oil sector. We have Dangote to the oil sector. We have other Dangotes in other sectors. The manufacturing is there, and above everything, the market is here. We are a country that loves luxury. Nobody wants. Every Nigerian you meet wants to drive the best of cars, and if you provide
then luxury
that,
should actually mean luxury, not the one that everybody just tag even the simplest thing as luxury because we want to identify with the word luxury.
Exactly. So young people have been yabbing Nigeria made. When you go, because I am very passionate about Africa, I'm passionate about Nigeria, and so I keep talking about how we could revamp or ramp up production when it comes to the automobile sector. And a friend said very comically, of course, that he does not want to buy a car that he closes the boot and the bonnet opens. I could not stop laughing. Unfortunately,
Wow.
that's the distrust that comes with producing back here in the country. We do not trust our product. Again, I do not blame those who don't, because we have failed ourselves. We've tried to cut costs, cut corners in production,
And it has cost us our integrity and transparency.
Absolutely. And those organizations, the standard organizations that should do more in ensuring that not just Nigerians suffer low quality or bad quality product. I don't think they have they are as charged up as they should be. I remember it took Nigerians to post several videos of then we were discussing beverages, alcoholic beverages, not just alcoholic beverages, all sorts of beverages that were being replicated in the most unhygienic places, and you see it took that to have the FCCPC come up to do more.
I remember that thread on Twitter then, on X then. Even there are some products that will bear the name of the original product.
Instead of Razep Africa, you say Rapex Africa, the same colors.
And then we just buy it because I think we ourselves, we need to talk to ourselves because we don't pay attention to these things enough. Because you just feel like, oh, maybe it's the same color or maybe the name sounds alike. We just assume that.
But you should protect me. My country should protect me. I shouldn't have to believe that this has passed through the standard, the standard NAFDAC, passed through Standard Organization of Nigeria, passed through all those. In fact, the manufacturer of the original product also has as his responsibility to ensure that it's difficult to pirate, to ensure that he's out there, people who are replicating, pirating, or whatever, are held accountable, But I mean, I wouldn't blame the consumer at the end of the day, because the consumer just wants to probably buy sardines. He goes there, instead of buying
Titus,
he buys to do something Estus. I mean, I saw several, and it was so funny. There's a popular drink, 4 cousins. They made it 5 cousins, 3 cousins, and all of that. So they were. It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous that this happened. But it goes back to the kind of trust we have when we talk local content. Invest in Africa, patronize Africa, but do we trust African products? How can we get there? I think that's a conversation we should have very soon when I bring in those whose job it is to come discuss these issues. Let's trust African products. And I can't blame those who don't, because, I mean, it's not been easy for them at all, trying to say, you know what, let me rather get a foreign product that I'm sure that their standards are better, and there's a process. But do you know that very often it's not even, especially when it's for export? When it's for export, that standard you respect, you would see for the country there, it's not there. They just do whatever and export. We had a conference some time ago with the Chinese embassy where they were trying to say that so much is being done to ensure that those products exported to other countries have the same standard as the one back there. But they also had a challenge. The challenge was that our businessmen approached the manufacturers to say, okay, instead of buying this product that I could have bought, okay, let's say it's a power bank, for instance, your power bank sells for 5,000 naira. Can you sell it less? And when you say, no, I can't sell it less, the production and everything put into consideration is what arrived at that, you said, okay. the ones you're giving me to send to Africa, to send to Nigeria, can you reduce the quality
and make that one
and make that one
substandard?
so substandard that instead of selling 5,000 to me, you now sell at 3,000, so that I can go back home and sell at 15,000. Often that's what happens, and unfortunately there are some greedy manufacturers who say, oh, okay, now I have a market, I'm going to sell more, and if I have to reduce it to 3,000 naira, I mean, it is your recommendation, it is your, but
And then he goes ahead to reduce the
but
quality.
the Chinese government was assuring us that they were doing more in that. I've not done another research. I think Symbiat, that's a charge right there to do a research, a report on how far that has gone. Finally, in West Africa, we come back to Nigeria, where Nigeria is lowering entry barriers for its latest oil licensing round in a bid to attract more investors and boost crude output. Regulators have said that the country has reduced signature bonuses for oil blocks and reduced independent oversight to improve transparency and investor confidence. Nigeria is offering 50 oil and gas blocks under the new round and aims to raise production to 2.7 million barrels per day by 2027, up from the current levels of about 1.5 million. Officials have also said that the reforms are central to increasing government revenues, reserves, and foreign investment in Africa's largest oil producer. Well, Nigeria still remains Africa's largest oil producer, and again, like it said here, we're trying to attract investors and by opening, or rather reducing the barriers for oil licensing. You know, the oil sector is very interesting. It's something like I reported oil and gas for a very long time, although the local content component to it, and it's exciting for me because this is still the mainstay of Nigeria and several African countries, and I'm happy that we are having good regulations around that sector and trying to expand and to see how we can get
Talking
better.
about expansion, do you think Nigeria can actually reach 2.7 million barrels a day, considering the challenges that we sometimes may face, like oil theft, pipeline vandalization? Do you think it is realistic for us to meet up and increase the barrels we produce?
I think, listen, I need you to understand something. You and I do not have what it takes to steal, divert, or siphon. I think that's the word.
So
that's the word I was trying to remember. Siphon oil in the quantities that affect our production. Forget this artisanal or the ones that we often expend so much energy in trying to attack, the ones in the creeks and all of that. Forget those ones. I'm talking about the large scale stealing that affects the overall output of Nigeria. You and I do not have
the capacity
to do that. And so if we are intentional, I'm telling you today, if Nigeria decides to go after these individuals, and by the way, they are not small individuals, they are probably amongst our public office holders, they are probably amongst our traditional heads. Yes, there I said it. But if the country is very intentional about going after these individuals who steal in that land, that large scale,
we should be
today we probably would be able to ramp up as much as 2.7 million. Look at what happened across Africa. I mean, when Nigeria sneezes, when Nigeria catches cold, indeed Africa sneezes. So if we are serious about it, it is not rocket science. If you attend a lot of oil and gas innovative conferences and exhibitions, you know so much is going on across the world. If you come as close to an oil pipe anywhere anywhere in Nigeria, if you come close to the oil pipe, it sends signals that a human being has come close. that is how much we've done in technologically wise, where it's not rocket science at all. If you want to curb what you just mentioned, oil theft, pipeline vandalism, if you come close, if we are serious, of course, law enforcement will be there. But we see how complacent law enforcement is when it comes to oil and gas. They pay so much to be sent to those areas because it's very lucrative to be there. They collude with not just the local oil, what they call them now, you know, the locals, those who are still in barrels, or not barrels now, just in drums, you know,
yes, or kegs,
or kegs or whatever. While when you aggregate it, it's substantial, but it does not even touch. It's not even a quarter of what's going on in the larger oil theft going on, and nobody wants to say it. Nobody wants to say these are issues we have across Africa that has not been addressed. And my question here is, are we serious about this bid to, now we want to reduce the barriers on licensing. Finally, we are lowering entry barriers. What's happening with
more investors?
To attract more investors. What's happening to those sitting on oil licenses? What is happening to them? It's not about coming here to scream, I have an oil license. What are you doing about it? What's the government doing to ensure that those ones are exploring? Because so much has to be done before we go to town and start screaming, oh yes, we are ready to revamp to 2.7 billion.
This is a good step in progress, if you agree with me, because if there has not been any plan to make sure that this works, I'm not sure that they'll put it in the news. So be rest assured that all these oil vandalization and wood.
But if Simbia, thank you so much for giving me that assurance that your president, because it is in the news, because it's in the news, we are absolutely going to see it working. I'm sure. I mean, like I said, I'm in love with Nigeria and I'm in love with Africa. Anything that brings about progress, I am absolutely there for. So if it works and we ramp up production to 2.7 million barrels per day, absolutely it is good for us. It would ultimately translate to the betterment for everyone. The GDP would increase, of course, because now we are selling more, we have more to sell, and probably
it also attracts foreign investment to Nigeria's oil sector
and exceed the OPEC quota of production. So it's nice. 1.7 barrels is what we are doing at the moment. I'm completely all for having a revamped, better regulations around the oil and gas. And now that we have removed fuel subsidy, which is another story entirely, because we have people say, how are you able to remove fuel subsidy and still regulate prices of PMS and other products? How are you able to regulate and remove fuel subsidy? Economists all over the world are unable to explain how Nigeria is doing that. But for some reason, we're able to ensure that our prices remain at a certain level. We thought it was going to be at the mercy of the market, to market competition and all of that, and the healthy market competition. But there's something still going on. Is it a partial subsidy? Is it still full subsidy? Why is government too ashamed to talk about it? Is a question for another day. But absolutely, if we get it right in our oil and gas sector, especially as the world is looking towards going green, let's take advantage of this period and do more in ensuring that we have our act together, prepare simultaneously for going green as well. Because
that means you are suggesting that Nigeria should not focus only on oil. We should also diversify into other energy sectors.
What are you suggesting?
Of course, I'm in for growth and development.
Absolutely. I want Nigeria to simultaneously. There are countries across the world. Look at China, for instance. The Chinese government is simultaneously growing both. Trying to. They have one of the largest wind turbines in the world, providing energy just as much as they have so much going on. Still, refining is going on. They have hybrid vehicles, and so there's no reason why a country cannot balance it and simultaneously grow energy and go green and go cleaner in the same breath. But that's it for today's edition of RAZEP Africa. I hope you've had a good time understanding what's going on across Africa, getting updates, and some of which are very exciting right there. The top of my head will be Uganda's non-reliance on the global grants and loans that are often also willingly offered to us. But with that, I say thank you so much for watching. My name is Dr. Joy Asoye, and Timbiat.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being part of the program. Until next time when we come your way, do have a wonderful rest of the day.
Welcome to RAZEP Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Here, we celebrate Africa not as a headline, but as a home full of ideas, courage, flavor, and future. This is where we talk about everything Africa. The politics that shape our nations, the innovations that shift our economies, the culture that colors our lives, the challenges we face with honesty, and the victories we are building one story at a time. On this show, no topic is swept aside. We are unfiltered and we are intentional. We bring you experts from across the continent and the world. Voices that know, voices that live the African experience, voices that are shaping the next chapter of our story. Let your spirit rise. We don't just tell Africa's story, we own it. Join Joy Asoye on RAZEP Africa, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Global Television.